Yes, brother, Shay here. Today we're talking about what to do if your partner is withholding sex. This may be right now that this is happening, or this may have been an experience that happened a while back in the past. If you are experiencing that, if you've been in the position where your partner has withheld sex from you, I get that it's frustrating. And today I'm going to explain why that happens and give you a tool that you can use to help resolve that. So I encourage you to stick here to take this on seriously, because if we don't, the alternative is to stay in this land of frustration, resentment against your current partner or previous partner, and of course we carry that into future or current relationships. So it's important to get this resolved. And the first step is understanding why this happened in the first place. So that's what we're doing today. First up, I want to say to you, I understand that this is less than optimal, a less than optimal thing to happen in a relationship. It's annoying, it's frustrating, it can feel very easy to go to the zone of, well, if you're going to withhold that from me, that's fine. I'm going to go and do my own thing and start watching porn, jerking off, whatever it may be. I've definitely spoken to a number of guys that I'd have to be crazy by now if I didn't recognize that as a pattern where their partner has withheld sex from them, and then it's been very easy for them to just say, okay, I'm going to go and find a different pleasure, and usually it's porn or jerking off, and getting quite heavily into that, which creates its own challenges as well. So I understand why it can be easy to have that position of like, almost like, well, F you then, I'm going to go and do my own thing. And I also believe that there's a part of you that knows that that isn't the thing that gets the issue resolved, which is why you're here watching this today. And that's the part of you that I'd like to speak to as we go through these next this next section of understanding why this happens. And the other side that feels defensive about the partner doing that, I want to say that I'm with you. I get it, and it makes sense for us to have that reaction. Okay, so I'm going to share 4 reasons as to why this can happen, why someone can withhold sex from us. And these are not the only 4 reasons. This is not the only truthful 4 reasons that exist. There's going to be multiple factors outside of this. And of course, it can be an individual, depends what's going on with the person, right? So whilst these are more general reasons as to why it can happen, of course, the ultimate thing is to really understand it with your partner from your perspective. So first up is things being unresolved in the relationship. So whether this has been a disagreement or a heated discussion or something that's happened, perhaps that it was something recently, or it could even be a while back. Sometimes we can hang on to these things, particularly if harsh words are said, or it feels like there's something that has been left unresolved. This can be one of the reasons why your partner may withhold sex, because there's this other thing that almost like an elephant in the room that is waiting to be resolved and worked through before they feel comfortable and okay to get back to where things were. So that's the first reason. Second reason is a lack of connection and intimacy versus sex. And I've done a video on this previously, how, there's a big difference between intimacy, connection, and just sex. Sometimes as guys, we can expect to want it like when we want it, and to go from 0 to 100 in terms of getting it on pretty quickly. And then there's other times where we appreciate building up intimacy and connection, and that feels more important. But it may be that for your partner, this feeling of intimacy and connection that's not related to sex stuff feels like it's lacking for them. And I think you will probably truthfully know the answer to that question. Does it feel like there's this great bond and intimacy and connection in your relationship aside from anything sexual? And that's really a yes or no answer. And if you know the answer is probably not right now, or it's dropped off a bit of a cliff over the last few years, then this is an important part, particularly as a relationship progresses, turns into a longer term or a marriage or a life partnership. this building the bond and continuous focus on intimacy and connection is really important. This can definitely be a reason why somebody withholds sex, because perhaps they just don't feel like they just want to get into it straight away. So that's the second reason. The third reason is more physical, right? That they're experiencing some form of discomfort or pain during sex. So this one is a bit more obvious. And of course, it's one to go to your healthcare provider to understand, okay, what's going on there, and to treat that topic sensitively. But that's important to put that option on the table, because it can be a genuine one that happens, particularly to women after giving birth or going through changes in their body. Women have to deal with quite a lot of things down there, changes, and so discomfort or pain is actually quite a common thing to happen. And then the final and the fourth one is a feeling of needing to assert control or a resentment around something. So if your partner is in a position of withholding sex and it's to assert some form of control, taking aside that we're going to imagine that they're not a narcissist for a moment, and that there's no like kind of crazy, that they're over controlling, dominating. So we're going to put that to the side for a moment, as that's a bit more of an extreme. So considering if it was just a kind of a normal relationship dynamic between you both, and they're withholding sex and it feels like it's as a way to try and control something, well, that's because they're feeling like there's another part that is out of their control, or there's resentment around another part. They feel like it's not where they want it to be, and this is kind of the only thing that they know how, and it may not even be conscious to them that they're withholding sex. So if it feels like it's more of a to assert control, then it's important we don't just think, oh, okay, well, why do you need to be in control? The question to ask is, why are they looking to assert control? Because there's another area where they feel there isn't control, or it isn't how they would like it to be. So what is that area? Okay, so in summary, those are the 4 areas. Just to recap on them: if there's something that is left unresolved, if there is a lack of connection or intimacy in the relationship, if there is physical discomfort or pain, or if there is a need to assert control because they feel like they're not in control elsewhere in the relationship. So these are 4 areas and reasons as to why your partner may be withholding sex from you. Now we're going to take a deep breath, first of all, because that was a bit of information to take in. Okay, now we're going to move into the section of what to do about it. And for this, I have a tool that I would like to share with you. It's a very simple tool. It's called You See You. And I'm going to talk you through each step of that and how to use it with your partner. UCU stands for Unity, Conflict, Unity. That's it, Unity, Conflict, Unity. And this came in a book that I read, and nothing to do with this topic, but I found it a very useful tool that can be used in many different situations. So, first of all, let's say you're sitting down to have this conversation. Okay, there's an assumption here that you're willing and open to both have a conversation about the fact that sex or intimacy is lacking in the relationship. Okay, this isn't about blaming, shaming, or making wrong. It's about the fact that it's not happening how it used to be. So first of all, you're both willing to have that conversation without judgment or shame. Let's move on to the first U, unity. So you sit down and you both agree. What is the thing that we align on here? We align on that we want to be together. We align on the fact that we would love to have intimacy and connection in our relationship, and part of that means sex, and part of it means something else. So you create unity around that. You both agree on the same thing. Then we move on to the C, the conflict. Here is where we feel like it's not going quite right at the moment. And you ask them, they share it from their perspective. What do you think the reasons may be behind this? And then I also will share it from my perspective, or you share it from your perspective. What are the reasons as to why you think it may be? And important to not judge, blame, or shame, or try and say to the other person, no, that's not right because X, Y, Z. Just, you know, Austin Powers, zip it, that thing. Just be quiet and listen in that moment, okay? So that's the conflict. We're understanding what the other person's perspective is. I'm sharing my perspective. And that then leads us to the final U, which is, after having that discussion, what feels like the right next step for us both. So unity, we're coming back to the final U, where we can move forward and that it feels good for both of us. So just to recap, we have spoken about the first thing is sitting down and being willing and open to have a conversation about this. Second is then we move into this tool, U, the first U, unity. We both want to achieve X, Y, Z in this relationship. You agree on that. Then move on to the C, the conflict. Here's where things are challenging for us at the moment. They share their view, I share my view, and it's not shaming or blaming or making wrong, it's just listening to the views. And then as a result of sharing that information, we move on to the final U, unity. This is, okay, here's now what we do to be able to move forward. UCU, unity, conflict, unity. That is the tool that I would like to share with you today. It's a very simple and very effective tool. Now, if this has been useful to you and you would like to understand more tools that you can use to improve communication and intimacy in your relationship so that you can feel confident about having sex and the type of connection that you want with your partner, then below in the comments, I have put the link to my free newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter that I send out. It includes a private podcast recording. This is exclusive content that you only get if you're part of that group. And we go into things in more detail, and there's a shed load more tools there to be able to use at your disposal. Ultimately, so that you can have sex without worry and without being dependent on pills. So if that sounds good to you, head below, click on that link. It will take you straight to the page where you can join the newsletter, and then I'll send straight to you 2 instant tools. See you there.